The Israeli Emergency Cabinet, headed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has decided to cut off all contact with the Gaza Strip and to expel all Gaza workers from the territory. The United Nations has announced that at least 72 of its own workers have been killed by the Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip. And the Peruvian parliament approved the elimination of child marriage, a practice that exposed girls and adolescents to violence. Hello, welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Israeli Emergency Cabinet, headed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, decided on Thursday to cut off all contact with the Gaza Strip and to expel all Gaza workers from the territory. The occupier has expelled thousands of Palestinian workers who were previously detained and imprisoned in concentration camps. All these populations before October 7th coexisted doing low-paid work for the occupier. Human rights organizations claim that many workers are still missing from these detentions and demand information. In the same sense, Israel has also cut off aid from Palestinian funds that it regulates on the basis of the Oslo Agreement, which provide for the creation of an interim Palestinian self-government, thus not only violating an international pact, but also subjecting thousands to collective punishment. The civil population in Gaza and Palestine continues under the indiscriminate bombardment from the Israeli forces. According to the spokesman of the Palestinian Ministry of Health, the death toll has risen to 9,061, among them 3,760 children. On the other hand, the United Nations said that bombings of hospitals and refugee camps such as Jabalia may qualify as war crimes. Meanwhile, fierce fighting rages between Israeli forces and Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip as the Israeli military ground operation intensifies. On Thursday, Egypt authorized the departure of hundreds of foreigners held in the coastal enclave and also the departure of the most seriously wounded who cannot receive any kind of care in the besieged hospitals of the Gaza Strip. On the other hand, Russian authorities informed that on the orders of President Vladimir Putin, the Ministry of Emergency Situations will send 28 tons of humanitarian assistance to Gaza. According to local media, the aid will be handed over to representatives of the Egyptian Red Crescent and then transported to the Gaza Strip. On October 19th, the Russian government sent the civilian population in Gaza 27 tons of humanitarian aid, consisting of foodstuffs such as flour, rice, pasta, and sugar. And the Israeli army has bombarded the Jabalia camp in the northern Gaza Strip for the third time in less than 24 hours, and the death toll may exceed 250 people. The world condemnation of the first attack was not worth it. The Israeli occupier rejected even the calls of its allies and protectors. The United States and the United Kingdom demanded guarantees for the lives of civilians. The United Nations, after the second attack, claimed it could be a war crime. Officially, the Gaza Health Ministry and humanitarian organizations confirmed 195 deaths, most of them women and children. But under tons of rubble, there are hundreds of bodies. And armed clashes between the Israeli occupation army and the Palestinian resistance continue in several areas of the West Bank, including in Palestinian refugee camps, where several fighters have been killed in combat. For more details, let's listen to our correspondent in Gaza, Noor Harasin, what she has to report.
The two parts of Palestine are getting together. The West Bank is enraged with what is happening in Gaza. There is clashes in Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank, in Nablus and Hebron, around the city, the holy city of Jerusalem. There is also Israeli incursion in these camps, firing, clashing with Palestinian fighters inside the Palestinian refugee camps in the West Bank. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, in the West Bank, more than 100 Palestinians in the West Bank have been killed in clashes with the Israeli forces since the 7th of October. Here in the Gaza Strip, we continue the morning routine of where we see the Palestinian families coming to say the final goodbye for their loved ones. Today, the number 10 or 15 is the normal average number of Palestinians killed in any Israeli strike in Gaza. The reason why is actually because Israel now mostly and recently mostly attack Palestinian refugee camps, Palestinian gatherings, like for example in front of a bakery, filling some water, also residential houses, residential buildings, while people and families are inside their homes. And the reason why also there is so many people inside the homes now is because we are talking about more than 1.4 million Palestinians that flee northern Gaza coming to southern Gaza, and they are getting killed in southern Gaza. They are staying at their friends' homes, relatives' homes. So you can talk about at least 10 to 50 person staying all in one home, and of course most of them are women and children. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza have exceeded 9,000, and they have more than 2,000 reports of missing people that are still under the rubble. So we are talking about around 11,000 Palestinians killed in the past 3 weeks. Nur Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
On Friday, the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine Refugees denounced the death of at least 72 of its workers in the Gaza Strip from Israeli attacks. The UN organization also pointed out that the last victim of its employees worked as a web programmer. On the other side, the Palestinian health system reported the death of at least 130 health workers and the closure of numerous hospitals and medical centers because the assistance and supplies available are insufficient to cover the basic needs of the population under siege by the occupier. The Tunisian parliament is debating a bill sanctioning the normalization of relations with Israel while the siege against the Gaza Strip continues. The president of the Tunisian parliament, Brahim Bourdabala, reaffirmed his opposition to recognizing the legitimacy of Israel. The bill will contain 6 articles prohibiting links with Israel in terms of institutions, governmental and non-governmental organizations, as well as participation in any event by Israel in the territory.
We will maintain our position that the Palestinian question is the central issue for our people. We are opposed to the normalization and recognition of the legitimacy of this entity. We firmly maintain our position that Palestine must be liberated from the river to the sea, with the full recovery of the homeland, the return of all territories, and the establishment of the Palestinian state on all its lands, with Jerusalem as its capital.
Let's take a short break. Remember, you can follow us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. And we go now to Peru, as this Thursday the Parliament of the South American nation approved the elimination of child marriage, a practice that, according to the United Nations, exposes girls and adolescents to violence. With 113 votes in favor and none against, the full Congress approved the measure that has been celebrated by human rights, children's, and women's organizations. Until now, in Peru, adolescents from the age of 16 could marry with the authorization of their parents. According to the figures from the Ministry of Women, between 2013 and 2022, there were more than 4,000 legal unions with minors. Congressman Jose Balcazar, president of the Education Commission, was harshly criticized for not questioning the practice. And the government of Venezuela describes the statements of Secretary of the Organization of American States, Luis Almagro, concerning historical rights of Venezuela as fatal. Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, assured that Almagro proved his deep ignorance of Latin American history, noting that ahead of Guyana's attempt to menace Venezuela through the International Court of Justice, he'll find the steady rejection of Venezuelans. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez ratified Bolivarian stance of peace diplomacy to provide a peaceful solution in compliance with the Geneva Agreement. Likewise, President Nicolás Maduro stressed his rejection, representing the Venezuelan people, of Almagro's attack on the historical rights of Caracas over the Guayana Esequiba. And the Panamanian legislature finally desisted and will not repeal the mining contract law that has generated strong mobilizations in the country. It will let the Supreme Court of Justice decide on the matter. The chamber, with a pro-government majority, decided with this option with 63 of the 71 votes of the National Assembly, with 1 against and 1 abstention. Initially, the parliament had voted to repeal the law. However, they desisted on Thursday's debate. Outside the legislative seat, thousands of citizens remained expectant, ratifying that the mining contract is the surrender of the homeland. So it will be in the highest instance of justice where it will be decided if the agreement with the Canadian mining company is constitutional or not. And on Thursday, the resolution submitted by Cuba to call for the end of the economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States was approved by the United Nations General Assembly with 187 votes in favor. The text, supported for the 31st time, received 2 votes against, just United States and Israel, and 1 member state abstained, which was Ukraine. The resolution recognizes the blockade as a central element of the United States policy towards Cuba for more than 6 decades. Its effects have not ceased for a single day and are known by 80% of the population of the island, who only know one country with a blockade. The vote was preceded by a broad debate in the international community. And we have come to a second short break, but before, we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, where you will be able to re-watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date with the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Thursday, a report from the United Nations pointed out that since August 2023, more than 40,000 people have been displaced in Haiti. According to the United Nations offices and several humanitarian organizations, violence and hunger are the fundamental reasons for this phenomenon. Many of these Haitians try to cross the border with the Dominican Republic. The statement added the situation is urgent and the different crises affecting the country overlap with each other. The displacement due to the gang violence must be added to the fact that 47% of the population suffers from food insecurity. Even the places that served as refuge, such as schools or churches, are beginning to empty due to the lack of food. According to the UN, the number of displaced people in Port-au-Prince already reached 200,000. And Japan has begun on Thursday the third phase of the discharge of its contaminated water from the Fukushima power plant into the sea. More than 7,800 tons of contaminated water will be discharged from this Thursday and for a period of 17 days. This operation that began last August 24th has generated strong protest inside and outside the country. China and Russia have restricted many Nipponese imports. Although the International Atomic Energy Agency gave the green light, experts are suspicious about the water treated with a system known as ALTS, in English, Advanced Liquid Treatment System. The Chinese bans have especially affected fishermen in Hokkaido. And the 16th day of the Pan American Games in Santiago de Chile came to an end on Thursday when men's volleyball was the day's protagonist. To give us an update on the sports results, our correspondent Eduardo Regonesi.
Intense Thursday morning at the main court at Parque O'Higgins, where thousands of fans witnessed the quarter-final match on the men's volleyball side between Chile and Colombia. Less than 12 hours earlier, Chile was losing 3-0 against Argentina on group stage action, qualifying Argentina to the semifinals and giving Chile few hours to rest before such an important match.
It doesn't help, that's for sure, but it wouldn't be correct on our part to say that we lost because of that. It was because other factors. I'm speechless. It is hard for me to complete a sentence. It is hard.
Without excuses, Chile took the court, where Colombia was the better team from the start, taking the first set 25-20 with a very good blocking game. Even though young Chilean fans had their own analysis of the game.
Why do you think Colombia won?
Because we had bad returns.
Bad returns? What about blocking?
Some went in and some went out.
The Chilean team improved on the second set, winning 25-21. But today was Colombia's morning, with 4 of their key players having 10 or more successful spikes. Finally, Colombia won in 4 sets, advancing to semifinals, where they will face Argentina. Later during the day, Cuba defeated Puerto Rico 3-2 on a tight game. It seemed like an easy win on the first 2 sets, but Puerto Rico came back and took the game to a defining 5th set. Now Cubans and Colombians will face Argentina and Brazil Friday afternoon, looking for a spot on the men's volleyball final. Volleyball, in fact, has become one of the fans' favorite competitions.
We hope that with this demonstration, especially in volleyball, bringing over 10,000 people every day, hopefully that will show the importance of group sports.
And the crowd really came forward in support.
I think it is very nice atmosphere, very well organized. It's very nice to come with the family. We have come to several events in the Pan American Games and everything works well. We're very happy.
The semifinal begins Friday at 5:30 between Argentina and Cuba, while the final will take place Saturday at 8 p.m. For Deportes TeleSUR, Bastián Merino and Eduardo Regonesi.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. Before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events, tell you the life of the story of our people of the South, and break the hegemonic media dominance. You can find these and many other stories at our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social networks, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.